Good morning. It is great to be with you all. I also feel like I ought to start off with my condolences. Some of you know, right? Ohio State lost to Michigan yesterday. I came in town. I got in about 11:30. I went to see a movie before my hotel was ready, and I actually went to the theater right by Ohio State and the Horseshoe, right? That's what you call it here. And I could hear the roar of the crowd. And I could hear the announcers, but I got back to my hotel to see the end of the game. Now, I want to give you a little bit of advice. I'm a Chicago Bear fan. I understand pain. This is what somebody told me once. He said, Tim, if you have the energy to get upset over a sporting event, your life is pretty good. Right? If that is what is upsetting us, that we lost to our rival, we are doing okay, right? If that is what is consuming our energy, we are doing okay. It is great to be with you here this morning. As Pastor Bill said, my name is Reverend Tim Crick. I am an ordained pastor in the ELCA who now lives out my calling with Lutheran World Relief. And what that means is I do three things. And I do it from my home in Dover, New Hampshire. I'm from the Chicago suburbs, live in Dover, New Hampshire. But I come and first of all, to say thank you. You all give generously of your financial resources and of your time and energy through quilts. Do we have any quilters here this morning? Please stop by and see me. I have a little gift for you if you would like at my table in between services. But I want to say thank you. You have chosen to live out your faith, to do these acts of love through your partnership with LWR. And I want to let you know how much it is appreciated. Now, how many people like giving to a black hole? We don't, do we? We want to be generous. We see the pain that's going on in the world, and we want to make a difference. And if we know we make a difference, what are we more likely to do? Do it again, right? So I not only want to thank you, I want to tell you what your giving is doing. That's why I'm here to preach this morning, and join me between services, and I can share some stories also about the difference you are making around the world. And then to ask you, keep doing it. Put aside all the political divisiveness that's going on in the world. How many people really enjoy turning on the news? We just see more heartbreak, don't we? It hurts. And so we almost would rather not know. We all know this phrase, ignorance is. Somebody else told me this once after I said ignorance is bliss. They go, Tim, you're right, ignorance is bliss, but it is not good. Because my ignorance comes at a cost, and it is a cost that I do not have to pay. It is cost that somebody else pays. And as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we are called not to be ignorant people, are we? We are called to live with our eyes wide open, to see the pain and suffering and heartache that is going on in the world, to allow our hearts to be broken, and then actually believe that we might do something about the pain and the suffering that we see. So thank you for continually choosing to partner with LWR to do something about the pain and suffering that is going on in the world. I want to ask you to do something. If you don't mind closing your eyes, I want you to have the mental picture in your head, a basement with 2 rooms. There is only one door between those 2 rooms. Both rooms are empty. In one room, there is just, one of those a light bulb hanging down with a pull chain. Both rooms are completely dark. You're in the room with the pull chain light. I want you to make your way over, feel around with it, reach up and grab that cord and pull it. And light floods the room. You are now covered in light. There's still another room with a door closed between, and the other room is dark. Make your way over to the door that you can now see. Grab the handle and just crack it open. Just a little bit. Which room changes? You can open your eyes. Does one room get darker, or does one room get lighter? one room gets lighter, doesn't it? The light goes into the darkness. It is not the other way around. It is not the darkness coming into the light. The light goes into the darkness. Do we believe that? Do we think that is the way the world works? Oftentimes it doesn't feel that way, does it? How many people get overwhelmed by the darkness that's going on in the world? And that's why you don't want to turn on the news, because you just think that is the reality of the world in which we live. That is pervasive, that is going to last, and there is nothing I can do. Oh, it feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? Especially this time of year, when the nights are getting longer and the days are getting shorter, aren't they? I moved from Chicago suburbs, and I spent about 10 years in what can be considered northern Wisconsin, Appleton. Depending on where you're at in Wisconsin, it's northern Wisconsin. Depending, it could be southern Wisconsin, depending. But we moved to Dover, New Hampshire. Oh my gosh, does it get dark earlier. I'm actually looking forward to being here in Ohio on the Eastern time zone, about 8 hours west, because, man, right now, it seems to be about 2:30 in the afternoon, and those shadows are coming in. You know what I mean? Where that darkness just comes in. It's earlier and earlier. It's hard. I have a friend who lives in Norway, up in Honesvåg, inside the Arctic Circle, where they lose the sun for months at a time. In fact, they just said goodbye to it, and she has consciously said she has to light candles on a regular basis as a reminder. Once a day she has this little ritual as a reminder the sun will come back. That the sun will come back, because it is easy to fall into despair, is it not? When you see more heartache, war, poverty, suffering, injustice of any kind. When you're in the time of year in which it gets dark so early. It is easy to believe that it is not the light that goes into the dark, but rather it is the dark that goes into the light. And yet, what do we hear in this gospel lesson today? What season are we now in the midst of? Advent, a season of hope, joy, peace, light, a season that recognizes the darkness we are in and says that is not our ultimate reality. Instead, the ultimate reality, we're getting a glimpse of it in Christmas. That's what Christmas is. It's that door that gets cracked open. The light comes in and it lets us know what is the ultimate reality. And then as Christians, we are asked to trust that is true and to live as that is true. Not to hide into our dark corners, right? How many people don't see your neighbors during the winter? It's cold, it's dark, you stay inside. I have this conversation every year with my next door neighbor when the summer comes out and we go out and mow our lawn for the first time. I haven't seen you about 6 months, Tim. Because when it's dark, when it's cold, when it's pain, what do? We hunker down and we retreat within ourselves and we just want to get through this time. And so we almost become a little self-focused. And yet it is in this time that we are asked to step out, to not go into a time of withdrawal, to not go into a time in which we just keep to ourselves and just kind of let things go, but to be people of faith, followers of Jesus that dare to believe our actions matter. That we know love and light and joy and peace are the ultimate reality. And then to actually live like it. I had the opportunity about 1.5 years ago to go to both Turkey and Ukraine. We don't even hear about Turkey in the news anymore, do we? Does anyone remember what happened in Turkey? You have to think about it, don't you? Earthquakes that devastated homes of 2 million people that are still in the midst of rebuilding. Thousands, tens of thousands of people died. And I got to go see the work we are doing there. And when I say we, I mean the work collectively we, not we as Lutheran World Relief. I mean we as the body of Christ. And after I got to spend about 7 days in Turkey, I actually got to go to Ukraine and to see the work that is going on there in the midst of war, and to meet people that have had their homes destroyed, loved ones killed, that have fled and have nowhere to stay. While I was there, I got to participate in a quilting kit distribution. We were about 4 miles from the Russian border. You could hear explosions during the day, not because of fighting that was going on, because of demining that was happening at that time, because that town where we were had been occupied by Russian forces and had since then been liberated. But it did not mean that it was safe. I was talking with a mom through an interpreter, and she had received a bundle of quilts to bring home. She was talking about how isolating the war is. She's like, during the war, during the occupation, right, obviously afraid to leave their homes, couldn't go out, and dependent on the Russian soldiers, literally used the word porridge to bring them food, right? We were hoping they would stop by that day with porridge so we could eat. She said, now the occupation has ended, it still is terrifying to go outside. She's like, not because of the Russian soldiers, but because you hear those explosions, the demining that's going on, I still can't let my 3-year-old who's sitting on her lap go and run, because of what might he step on, because there are still remnants of what's happening. And another military officer I talked with, he said there is not one building in this town that has not been damaged by the war. But the mom also said, thank you. Thank you for coming all this way and what this quilt means. She said, it lets me know that what's happening here is not the reality for everybody everywhere. And that maybe that there's hope that this there's hope that this war will end. That's what we're called to do. Live in the light in the midst of darkness. To remind the world that is so easy to fall into despair and to say the reality is dark and the dark is going to last, and let's just retreat into ourselves and avoid, and let's just be ignorant, because ignorance is bliss. But we are people of faith, and we are told ignorance is not good, and that it will not last, and that Christmas is coming, that door will be cracked, Christ will come to the world, the light will shine, and hope is given. I thank you for partnering with Lutheran World Relief to be a light in the world that seems oh too dark, and to keep partnering with anybody, anywhere, as a sort of light and love for the world. Amen.